I'm Fatima and I'm 30. When I first met Gabriel, my husband, I felt like I had hit the jackpot. Let me tell you, my past was littered with trust issues, but there was something about him that made me want to let my guard down. I was always the kind of girl to keep tabs on her man to make sure he wasn't sneaking around, and that's just how I was, a bit of a control freak, and I had my reasons. I'd had my heart broken before and I didn't want to experience that kind of pain again. So when I met Gabriel, I was cautious at first. But he was charming, kind, and said and did all the right things. I found myself falling in love with him, and before I knew it, we were married. We got hitched when I was 26, despite only dating for a year, and life seemed perfect. However, things took an unexpected turn when he brought up the idea of opening up our relationship after being married for 2 years. It caught me completely off guard. Now, before you call me old-fashioned, I have nothing against opening up a marriage, but after 2 years? Come on. People only did that later down the line, right? When things were running stale. Regardless, I knew that polyamory just wasn't something for me. And before you start with, okay, well, why didn't you have this discussion before you were married? Just know that we did. When we were dating, he'd mentioned it, kind of casually, so I thought he was joking. I laughed a bit. But I made it abundantly clear that an open relationship wasn't something I was comfortable with at all. And if he really wanted that, we should go our separate ways. He told me that it was just a joke, and I believed him. But now, 2 years into our marriage, he was bringing it up again, and I'm not going to lie, it made me furious. I felt like he had lied to me in the beginning about how much he wanted to open up the relationship. It wasn't just about trust, it was about the fact that he seemed to disregard how I felt about it. I thought we were happy together, and this request just threw me for a loop. It made me question everything. Had he not been content in our marriage? Why did he want to be with other people? These thoughts always gnawed at me, and I couldn't help but feel hurt and betrayed and lied to. Gabriel, you've been lying to me all along. You've always wanted an open relationship, haven't you? No, Fatima, it's not like that. I was just curious about it, that's all. I didn't think I'd actually be interested in doing it. Don't give me that. You brought up the whole polyamory thing when we were dating. You lied to me and then claimed it was a joke. But it was clear that you'd been thinking about it long before we even got married. No, that's not true. I love you and I love our life together. I don't really want to be with other people. It was just a fleeting thought. Look, just forget the whole thing, okay? I didn't mean it. You expect me to believe that? You mentioned it when we were dating and now you're bringing it up again? It's obvious that you've been considering this for a while and you just hid it from me. Fatima, I didn't want to upset you. I thought I could suppress those thoughts. But they kept resurfacing. Suppress those thoughts? And for how long, Gabriel? For the rest of our lives? You kept your true feelings from me, and that's a betrayal of trust. I can't believe you'd lie about something so important. This is literally why people end up cheating on each other. Why would you put us in such an awkward position? Fatima, I'm really sorry. I just didn't want to lose you, and I thought I could get past it. But I understand how you feel, and I should have been honest from the beginning. I appreciate your honesty now, but it's too late. Our values and desires are too different, and I can't be in a marriage where my partner is unhappy. It's time to make a choice. My decision to give my marriage another chance weighed heavily on me. I genuinely loved Gabriel, and I desperately wanted our relationship to work. But the reality was proving to be more complicated than I had hoped for. The newfound agreement of open and honest communication in our marriage didn't seem to be holding up. At least I was holding it up on my end, that is. It really felt like their fights were escalating, and I can say with certainty that it wasn't my fault. I was always trying my best to maintain a positive and supportive atmosphere, but Gabriel was frequently in a foul mood, and any attempts at cheering him up were always met with hostility. This, as you can imagine, led to more arguments and fights. Each day I would wonder if I was doomed to always have troubled and toxic relationships. I saw my therapy sessions as a way to grow and become a better person, while Gabriel seemed stagnant. The positive changes in my behavior, such as avoiding yelling or arguing and instead seeking constructive solutions to our issues, didn't sit well with him for some reason. It was as if he missed the toxicity of their past relationship, which was ridiculous to think about. Despite my own personal growth and maturation, I couldn't help but feel the weight of our crumbling relationship. I had hoped for a fresh start when I decided to stay, but it was becoming increasingly evident that some issues ran too deep to be resolved on their own, especially if one of us wasn't willing to work on their own demons. I took the initiative to suggest couples therapy, believing that professional guidance could help us navigate the complexities of our relationship. However, Gabriel always refused the idea, insisting that they didn't need therapy. He viewed our situation as fine, even when it was clearly not. As my therapist wisely pointed out, one person couldn't force the other into therapy. The willingness to seek help should come from both sides and within. If not, resentment and tension could build, further straining our already fragile relationship. Needless to say, I was frustrated and tired of trying to improve our marriage all on my own. I felt like I was parenting someone, and the last thing I was going to do was coddle a grown man. So I stopped pushing Gabriel to join me in therapy, as the therapist suggested. This decision led to even more distance between us. It seemed as though Gabriel was resisting any positive changes, which was always baffling to me. I felt stuck. Obviously, my heart still belonged to Gabriel, but my mind was growing tired of the constant emotional roller coaster and having to do the majority of the emotional labor in the house. The foundation of trust we needed to survive was crumbling under the weight of all the unresolved issues and the unwillingness to confront them. This man would sometimes pick fights with me for no apparent reason. I would try and remain calm as always, but he would double down and be so reactive that I would need to get away from him just so that I could hear myself think. It was exhausting, and my patience with him was wearing thin. Fatima, you've just changed so much. You don't even care about me anymore, do you? Gabriel, that's not true. I care about you deeply. You know this. Then why is it that when we have issues, you're always so calm and nonchalant about it? Let me get this straight. You're upset with me because I have good conflict resolution skills? That's not what I said. Okay, look, I'm just trying to find better ways to handle our disagreements and make our relationship stronger. Well, I don't like it. I feel like you don't even love me. Gabriel, my love for you is the reason I'm trying to improve our relationship. I want us to be happy together. Happy? Happy like you're Mrs. Perfect with all your therapy and coping mechanisms? Gabriel, therapy has helped me grow and understand myself better. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to be a better partner for me and for you. You could both benefit from therapy, you know. It's never too late to join me. No, I don't need therapy. It's not for me. Gabriel, it's not about being broken. It's about gaining tools and insights to make our relationship stronger. I think it could really help us communicate and understand each other better. I'm fine the way I am. You're the one who's changed. I'm changing because I want us to be better. I want us to work through our issues together. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about us. It's not you versus me. It's us versus the problem. As the months went by, I continued to improve my communication and conflict resolution skills through therapy, while Gabriel seemed to grow more and more bitter. My therapist constantly asked me how I felt about Gabriel refusing to change and become a better person, and I would vent about how exhausting it was. Still, I didn't want to leave because I desperately wanted our relationship to work out. I held on to the hope that things would get better and that we could find a way to reconnect. However, my journey of healing and self-discovery through therapy made me realize that I had been lying to myself all along. One day, I couldn't keep my feelings bottled up any longer. I brought up the idea of divorce to Gabriel since he clearly seemed unhappy. But his reaction was surprising. His world seemed to shatter and he broke down. I mean, full on ugly crying, begging me to stay. He told me that he couldn't imagine his life without me and that he was willing to do whatever it took to keep us together. I decided to give our relationship yet another chance, but with a condition. I told Gabriel that the only way we could stay together was if he started going to therapy. It didn't matter if he went on his own or with me. The important thing was that he needed to learn more about himself and work on his issues. I explained how therapy was always a positive step towards personal growth. To my surprise, Gabriel finally agreed to start therapy. It felt like a turning point in our relationship. We began attending couples counseling sessions together, and for the first time in a long while, things started looking up. Gabriel and I even began discussing the possibility of having children. It seemed like we were on the path to rebuilding our relationship, and I hoped that this time things would truly improve between us. As things appeared to be improving, I started noticing that Gabriel was using the language and ideas we learned in therapy to manipulate and control situations in his favor. Apparently, it's called therapy speak, and people tend to adopt psychological terms to justify their bad behaviors and not take accountability. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, guess what he did? Just guess. He raised the issue of an open relationship again. And this time I completely lost my cool. I couldn't contain my anger and frustration any longer. I yelled at him, asking him what his problem was. I reminded him that I had made it clear from the very beginning that an open relationship was something I genuinely did not want. Gabriel tried to frame it as me being unfair by forcing him to go to therapy while I couldn't even compromise on this aspect of our relationship. I had to set him straight, explaining that my boundaries were not open to negotiation. It wasn't a compromise, it was a violation of my clearly defined limits, and he was refusing to accept and respect that. I pointed out that I never forced him into therapy, as he was saying, and I had always been willing to consider a divorce if that was what he truly wanted, since he was clearly unhappy. In fact, it was Gabriel who seemed distraught and eager to stay together, even though it was clear that our compatibility had faded over time. My words deeply hurt him, apparently. Gabriel genuinely believed we were soulmates, and I wanted to believe it too. However, I couldn't ignore the mounting evidence that our relationship was burdened by conflict and incompatibility. All I wanted was a drama-free life, even if it meant letting go. The disagreement resulted in our most significant falling out to date. Gabriel ended up staying at a friend's house for like 2 months while we tried to figure out our relationship dynamic. It was exhausting, and I felt torn about what to do next. My therapy sessions continued to remind me that I needed to end things with Gabriel, even if it was going to be painful. Each time I tried to bring it up with him, though, he would break down all over again and promise to do better, to change. And every time, his efforts would only last for a month or so before he returned to his old habits, showing little consideration for our relationship and triggering my unresolved issues. Fast forward to when I was 30 and Gabriel was 32. Things had become somewhat stale but stable in our relationship. I was still willing to put in the effort to make things better for us, even though it felt like I was pulling teeth, but I was determined to try my best. Then, one day, while I was cleaning up in the living room, I noticed Gabriel's phone buzz with a call from someone saved as work wife in his contacts. My heart started racing, and I immediately picked up the phone to answer and find out who the hell his work wife was, because I sure as hell didn't know. The lady on the other end, assuming she was speaking to Gabriel's wife, introduced herself as Daya. When I asked, "Who the hell is this?" I wasted no time in confronting her, demanding to know who she was and what she wanted. Daya tried to assure me that there was nothing romantic happening between her and Gabriel, that it was just some innocent workplace flirting, and that I shouldn't read too much into it. But her words did little to help my rising suspicions, and I wasn't about to take her at face value. I mean, I barely knew the lady. I hung up the phone and marched over to Gabriel, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. I was trying so hard to remember all the things I learned in therapy, but in that moment I swear I wanted blood. I demanded an explanation, wanting to know what the hell was going on and whether he was cheating on me. His response was to deny any wrongdoing, saying that he would never do such a thing and that I was overreacting. "Gabriel, I'm not overreacting. I can't believe you just let that woman call herself your work wife without talking to me about it. It hurts my feelings. Why can't you see that?" "Seriously, Fatima? You're always so overbearing and controlling. Can't I have friends at work? Get over yourself." "I'm not against you having friends at work, but why would you let her call herself your work wife? That's a boundary that should have been discussed between us." "You're too controlling. You want to manage every aspect of my life, and I can't breathe without your permission. It's suffocating." "It's not about control, Gabriel. It's about respect and open communication in our relationship. I just don't get why you would do this to me." "Well, I don't. I don't need your approval for my friendships." "If you can't respect me and our relationship enough to have a simple conversation about boundaries, then maybe this isn't the right relationship for either of us." "Oh, here we go again, everybody. Fatima with the urge to end every single relationship she's been in. You'd think all that money wasted on therapy would actually teach you something about yourself. What the hell are you even on about? You love giving up on things too easily. Haven't I shown you how much I love and care for you? I've fought for us so many times, but it seems like you can't wait to get away from me." "That's not true. Look, I don't want to fight with you. Dr. Ramsey told us that this isn't going to be productive. So I'm going to give you your space to cool off. I'm going to go to work. Do I have your permission, Your Highness?" I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my chest. The sense that Gabriel wasn't being entirely truthful. But honestly, you all, I was just so exhausted I didn't know what to do. As our wedding anniversary was approaching, I decided to plan something special for Gabriel. Despite our recent fight, I wanted to show him that I cared and valued our relationship. I didn't want to come across as controlling, as he had accused me of being, but I believed a heartfelt surprise could mend our relationship and bring us closer together. For our anniversary, I planned to surprise him with carefully chosen gifts and a spontaneous trip to Hawaii. I thought that a change of scenery might just be what we needed to rekindle the spark in our relationship. I meticulously planned every detail, from the gifts I knew he would love to the activities we could do together during our getaway. I had been so excited about the surprise anniversary trip to Hawaii that I decided to leave work at noon instead of my usual 5 p.m. to surprise him, of course, and to get ready to head to our destination. I thought we could get an early start on our trip and have more time to enjoy each other's company. To make sure the surprise remained a secret, I parked my car a couple of blocks away from our house. I wanted to make sure Gabriel wouldn't be suspicious of my early arrival and that he'd be genuinely surprised. When I quietly walked up to our home, I felt a rush of excitement mixed with nervous anticipation. I was eager to see Gabriel's reaction when he discovered the surprise I had planned. But as I tiptoed towards the front door, I heard something that shattered my heart into a million pieces. The sounds coming from inside were unmistakable. It sounded like Gabriel was with another woman, and it sounded like they were getting down and dirty. My heart pounded in my chest as I struggled to comprehend what I was hearing? How could this be? Just moments ago, I was filled with hope for our relationship, and now the reality was crashing down around me. I wanted to burn the whole world. There was no way in hell that this man was cheating on me after everything we had been through. I just couldn't accept it. I went back to my car feeling like an idiot, but I guess this is just what happens when you refuse to leave someone who's clearly bad for you. As I sat in my car, tears streaming down my face, I couldn't believe the betrayal I had just witnessed. The man I thought I knew, the man I had planned a surprise anniversary trip for, was in our bedroom with another woman. And I suspected that it was his platonic work wife at that. The pain and anger swelled inside me, and I thought I was going to explode. I knew I couldn't let this slide. I needed to get back at them, to make them feel the humiliation I was experiencing. So I dialed 911. As I spoke to the operator, I mustered all the acting skills I could to sound frantic, telling them I believed there was a break-in at my home because I could hear loud noises inside. I told them to come quickly because I thought they had a weapon and that I was in my car a couple of blocks away because I was scared. The police took my call seriously, thank God, and assured me they'd dispatch officers right away. As I waited for them, I pulled my car closer to our house, ready to catch them in the act. Soon enough, the police arrived, and I approached them, identifying myself as the homeowner and the one who made the call to 911. I explained the strange sounds I had heard, emphasizing that I feared for my safety. The officers decided to take action, of course, and the situation quickly drew the attention of our curious neighbors, who had come outside to see what was happening in our normally quiet neighborhood. The police didn't waste any time. They banged really hard, no pun intended, on our front door and threatened to enter forcibly if no one responded. I'm guessing the reason why Gabriel and whoever he was screwing was trying to look half decent before they were exposed to the world was because they weren't answering. When their warnings went unheard, they broke down the door and entered the house. The commotion that followed could be heard from outside, but I patiently waited behind a cop car, knowing that the moment of truth was approaching. The officers soon dragged Gabriel and the lady out of our home, both of them half-dressed and thoroughly embarrassed. I had succeeded in my plan to expose their affair to the world. It wasn't just about catching them in the act, it was about making them understand the pain and humiliation they had caused me, and damn, it felt good. As Gabriel and the lady were being escorted to the waiting squad cars, they locked eyes with me, and Gabriel, in a desperate attempt to help his embarrassing situation, urged me to tell the officers that they weren't intruders and that I knew him. However, I played along with my charade, pretending not to recognize him, and I told the officers that I was genuinely frightened and didn't know these people at all. This made Gabriel's eyes widen. Honestly, I thought they were going to pop out of the back of his head, and he looked like a crazy person trying to convince the officers that he knew me. One of the officers remarked how sick and twisted it was to break into someone's house just to engage in such indecent activities. They warned Gabriel and the lady that they should consider themselves lucky if I chose not to sue them for their actions. Gabriel, his eyes wide with panic, attempted to apologize to me, claiming he never meant for any of this to happen, but I maintained my charade, insisting I had no idea of who he was. Which wasn't a complete lie, because clearly I didn't know he could be this cruel to me. The cops proceeded with their arrest and transported them to the police station. The following days and weeks were tumultuous, and our marriage was finally dead. Maybe it had been dead all along. But we had finally acknowledged that there was no turning back from this. He cheated on me, and I put him in jail. I think we were even. We finally decided to get a divorce, and as time went on, I confirmed that the lady Gabriel had been involved with was indeed Daya, his platonic work wife. Both of them faced severe consequences. They were not only confronted with the end of their respective marriages, but also lost their jobs. Revenge had never felt so satisfying, and even though my heart still ached from the betrayal, I knew I had taken a stand for myself.